this week. If you are new here, thank you for coming and joining me at the channel. Thank you for your support. If you're a long-time viewer, thanks for hanging out again. This week we are going to get into something pretty fun and different, but first I want to give a big plug of support for a very great initiative that Ari Flagle is doing. He's raising money for his friends that are essentially family to him over in Papua New Guinea, where he goes and does his Boelen's python research, and he's created masks, face masks for COVID stuff, with the logo. It's kind of like this whole section right here on it, and they're 15 bucks a piece. At the time you're watching this video, he is sold out of the first run, but he is going to make an announcement when he does a second run. They went very fast. They're fantastic. I recommend ordering at least two, just to have backups, things like that, because you can never have too many these days. But anyway, it's a great cause because his friend that is over there has unfortunately gotten sick with COVID. Those sort of more remote areas of the world where people don't have the same access we do to hospitals and medical care, things like that, are at higher risk, and unfortunately it seems to be the case here. So this is to raise money for somebody who is instrumental and sort of one of the only big factors that without it Ari wouldn't be able to do his research. It's this family. They're that important to his Boelen's research. Without them, we wouldn't have Ari's books and know so much about these animals and be putting so much conservation effort towards it. So consider this like a conservation fundraiser that also benefits somebody over there who is sick. In order to get these masks, all you have to do is reach out to Ari Flagle on Facebook Messenger, and please don't forget to go check out his website about the project at projectblackpython.org. I'll have all that information down in the description. You've probably just seen me pop those little labels right here on the screen anyway, but just so you know, you got to go check those out. Definitely support this initiative. It's for the best cause out there to spend your money right now. So without further ado, we're going to get into this week's video, and this one's going to be something different. My friend Ryan Dumas of Rad Reptiles, I'll put his link and information in the description below. I'll put it right here as well. Good friend of mine, another zookeeper, and he has put out a fantastic video at the time of this video you're watching, just yesterday, about enrichment, and he went deep into the different types of enrichment, how to assess it, how to define it, how to score yourself, and how to evaluate the overall care you're providing your animal. So it was a fantastic video for anybody who keeps any reptiles or any animal for that matter. I highly recommend you go check that video out. Pause this, go watch that, then come back, and then you will understand what we're doing. And I'm going to call this the Enrichment Challenge, and it's all about just taking your husbandry even one step forward or up and progressive, and do something a little bit extra. Get away from just the bare minimum and basics, which you can see behind me. Some of this is bare minimum and basics. So we're going to get into some different ways that you can do some very simple household enrichment. Ryan's done an excellent job explaining it, showing some examples, and I'm going to show you some of my homemade enrichment that I will apply during this, so you can see exactly what happens, hopefully. So stay tuned, and I hope you really enjoy this. And at the very end, you're going to see who I'm tapping next. So watch till the very end. You better. Alright, so when it comes to enrichment, there's a lot of different approaches as to how you can execute this, but what you need to consider is the animal you're looking to enrich and their natural history. These two items of thought will direct you towards success better than anything else if you know conceptually what you're doing. What that means is you need to know your animal, you need to know what they do behaviorally, their size, what the size of the enclosure they're in, what sort of demeanor they have, and anything species specific. The natural history angle of that is sort of what they would naturally do in the wild behaviorally, as far as activity levels or feeding or communal living or isolation, or where they're found and the types of environments they can be found in. So those will help you sort of decide what you implement as far as the enrichment you're delivering. And it could be something very simple. There's a lot of fantastic household items that you can use for various enrichment. So it doesn't have to be a big, scary, complicated thing. You can certainly get very elaborate with it, but sometimes the littlest things can make a huge difference. Now, if you're like me, you probably use a lot of paper towels, so you've got tons of these paper towel rolls that you're either throwing away or recycling. I save all of these. Perfect hides for babies. In these racks back here, I can put a little paper towel tube in there, and if any of you have ever kept various babies, you know that little snakes love cramming themselves in tiny little tight spaces. Naturally in the wild, these babies are quite vulnerable, so giving them very secure small spaces, it really hits that that safety thought for them. They feel secure in there, and that's quite enriching. Another thing you can do is you can get a bunch of fake plants like this from any pet store, and they don't have to be anything in particular. Plastic is great because you can disinfect it, but if you cram a bunch of those in tubs like this, you're essentially going to fill that space up, make it a little more cluttered, make them feel a little more safe and secure. And with a lot of baby snakes, that's where they're going to be found naturally, under a lot of the leaf litter, hidden in bushes, camouflaged, sort of in dense foliage for safety and security. So that's a great example of how you can sort of play with those natural history aspects and behaviors. The other thing, if you really want to take it up a notch, you can get these cool little textured cork rounds and hides. You can orient them vertically, you can stuff food in them, different textures. Cork rounds are quite abundant. These things have a lot of texture to that. Abrasive texture is fantastic for animals when they're in shed, animals that like to grip and climb on things. You can even go as simple as, instead of using plastic hides, you can get cork ones, or you can get a couple and swap them out from time to time. It's really that simple. A change in the animal's environment gets them thinking and stimulates some of those behaviors. So if you take their nice smooth disinfected plastic hideaway and you put this in, and it's still going to serve the function, you're going to get them thinking about that, and they're going to notice the difference. And then you can rotate and do that from time to time. For some of your bigger animals, you can even go out and get like full sheath of bark, but you want to treat it, bake it, freeze it, whatever, make sure there's no parasites. But using those is fantastic because it's real wood. You can spray it down, it'll hold moisture, the animals can abrade themselves on it, creates a hide, and it kind of looks nice. So enrichment does not need to be a scary thing at all. It's very easy. You can take Ziploc bag boxes with the holes in them, use those for snake hides. Old cereal boxes, stack them up, sort of like a reeve stack with monitors, right under the heat, and create thermal gradients of hides in there, sort of like various caves. The potential is endless. The world is yours. Enrichment is as much as you want to make it. So yeah, don't be afraid to try it. And even if your animal doesn't use what you've put in, you're still getting feedback. Because you're saying, all right, I did this. This didn't elicit any different behaviors. Let's try something different. With snakes, it's a lot of scent, a lot of texture, a lot of hides, a lot of different things. But you got to understand how they think in order to really sort of hit that mark just so with enrichment. So I'm going to show you two examples of what I'm going to do. Ryan challenged me to do one form of enrichment. I'm going to take it up a notch and do two. So let's take a look. Alright, so as you can see here, this is a pretty rudimentary and basic tub. This has my adult male Brazilian rainbow boa breeder in here. I actually downgraded him from a pretty oversized cage to give the female that was in here more room, and we're going to look at her next. But this guy loves just burying in the substrate, so giving him a thick layer of substrate and constantly refreshing that, very enriching for him, really hits that natural thing for him. But he's also got a hide, and although he is under it, he often can be found just in the substrate. So there's my boy Crimson. Doing really, really well. And he has had this hide for some time. And as you can see, you know, other than if he soils it, I don't really clean it very often. So it's got a lot of his scent and smells on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap some hides. So this is going to hit a little bit of texture enrichment and scent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hide from him that is plastic in texture and smells like him in his environment, and I'm going to swap it with the female over there, and we're going to trade. So let's go. Alright, so here's the male's hide. The female that I'm talking about is under here. We're going to swap these hides. I'll give you a quick look at her, and then we're going to give our big boy this. So this has been with this female for quite some time. Again, just like his hide, haven't really washed it or anything unless it really needed it for a bad bathroom break or something. But this has completely different textures from his smooth plastic hide and smells like a female. So I'm going to come down here and give this dude a different little hide. And it's going to be snug, and he'll be alright. Come on, bud. Look at him. He's already thinking. So we're going to let that settle for a minute. We're going to take a look at this girl. So let me turn down my light here. Well, that's not really working. She's kind of in shed anyway. So what we're going to do is trade. So they're going to get a little bit of a swap. And although she's in shed, I'm sure she will be smelling that and thinking and kind of assessing what just happened. And then tonight she might cruise around on it. When she sheds, she might use it a bunch. We'll see. But the point is, we are ticking some of those natural history boxes in terms of texture. This feels different from the hide she was under, and it smells different. We already know snakes are very olfactory driven with their forked tongue and smelling things, so this really ought to get them thinking and get those gears turning. Alright, so what you're looking at is half of the enclosure that my big adult male blacktail crebo lives in. It's a big 6-foot enclosure. Now, this is going to be the second half of the enrichment that I'm going to do, and I actually do this quite regularly. But if any of you keep diurnal snakes or very active species that like to hunt around, one of the things you can do is you can take feeding and make it an enriching instance instead of a monotonous hand the snake the food and walk away sort of thing. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Bandit here 6 mice, but I'm not just going to give them to him. I'm going to scatter them around, hide them and things. He's already off in the distance out of frame, kind of figuring out what's going on, because he smells these rodents. So, I'm going to get his attention with one, and then I'm going to make 1 or 2 rather obvious, and I think I'm even going to take one, put it in this little hide here, so he's got to find that. Now this isn't very challenging for him, but anything that makes feeding take a little bit longer definitely makes things a little bit more enriching. We're going to take one, stash it on top up here, and maybe we'll put one back there. Now what's happening is this animal is aware of food and he's thinking. So he's off in the distance trying to figure out where that scent is coming from. So I'm going to try and stay perfectly still, because he'll go for movement. He's very visually cued in, but right now he's having to use his sense of smell more than his vision. And hopefully we'll catch some of this on video, and it won't be a super long and drawn out thing. But even if it is, that's more enrichment for him, even if we're not going to stick around and watch it all. And there he goes. He passed one, but he found this one. So 1 of 6 down. And this is pretty natural behavior for this animal. In the wild, these guys would be active during the day, cruising around the forest floor and sort of Central America where they're found. And they would be basically looking to overpower any sort of food item that they could find, whether it be rodents or birds or fish or other snakes, lizards, frogs. If it fits in their mouth, they'll eat it. So this is pretty normal for them. And I need to make sure I'm not... Uh-oh. Don't move. This animal cues on to movement really, really quickly. Boom. Number 2, found. So normally, over the past 5 minutes, if I had, just been feeding him, this would be over long ago. But instead, hiding food, stashing it around, making him work for it, think about it, not only gives him something that occupies his day a little bit more, but it sort of keeps him thinking, keeps him intellectually stimulated, brings back a little bit of their instincts. Oop, don't move, Riley. Bandit. Alright, I'm going to cut this short before... Nope, maybe not. Ooh, I thought he was coming for my fingers. Alright, well, you get the idea. We're going to leave him be so I'm not confusing him, so he's not coming out looking at me. And we're going to let him sort of finish his hunt. He's got 4 more mice to find. And, well, scratch that, make it 3. Anyway, you get the idea. But you can tap into your diurnal species instincts, if that's a species you keep, and make feeding a drawn-out, enriching sort of stimulating activity for your animals just by taking a different approach to what you normally do. Alright, So there's my 2 enrichment challenges fulfilled. Thank you, Ryan, for tagging me in this. I think this is going to be a great initiative that'll catch some wind. We'll get this going. So yeah, for anybody who's watched all the way through, enrichment doesn't need to be challenging. It doesn't need to be scary. It doesn't need to be super complex. But if you think about what your animal does, how they behave, how they think, how they feed, the environment they live in, all of those natural history factors, and you tap into that, there's no reason why you can't find something anywhere in your snake room, anywhere in your apartment, house, wherever you live, to kind of do something a little bit different. You can do something out of the routine, make these animals think, give them new textures, new smells, different hides. It's endless. The possibilities are endless. So, that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to nominate one more person to carry this sort of pay it forward style of enrichment. We're calling it the Enrichment Challenge. The requirements are you need to go back and watch Ryan's video that sort of is the foundation for this, and I'll make sure that link is in the description below so you can go check that out. Then do your own video, and you have to do at least one form of enrichment for your animals where you take their day-to-day life and do something a little bit different for them, showcase it, and let's sort of get this trend spreading like wildfire to show that it's not difficult to do enrichment. Anybody can do it. You just got to be creative, think outside the box. So with that being said, Brian Cusco, I choose you, Pikachu. Yep, Brian Cusco, you're up next, buddy. I challenge you to take the approach that Ryan and I have recently and find something in your collection that you can do to enrich at least one of your animals' lives. You can be as simple or complex as you want, but the ball is in your court, Brian. So let's see what you can come up with for some enrichment and pass this buck forward, and let's get this ball rolling. Anyway, thanks for tuning in this week. Don't forget to look up Ari's mask fundraiser with this logo. Again, the first run is sold out. He'll come back for some more, but it's for a good cause. It's for helping some wonderful people who facilitate his research over in PNG and to help them stay healthy. So don't forget to look that up. Enrich your animals. It's not scary. It's not hard. You can do it. I promise. Until next week, later.